The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight! Oh,
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hippo Toad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, I would like to tell you that, as Jesse knows, Jesse Starcher, how do you do, sir?
Mark Radulich, I'm so glad to be here tonight to talk about a season of The Wire I have not fully seen.
Well, Jesse, like I was going to tell the audience, and now I'll tell you, especially because you were disobedient and didn't do the homework. You came to class unprepared. You have to give you a punishment. We'll talk about it later. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now wait a second. Let me make sure.
Maybe it's 10 whacks with a paddle. Maybe I'll make you kneel in the rice.
Let me make sure I clarify.
Yeah.
I'd not fully seen it until just recently. So I did complete the season.
Oh,
I completed
okay.
the season.
You're
I
a good-
completed all 5 seasons.
You're a
I
good
just,
boy.
before now,
Okay.
this is my first time I got to watch all of season 5, and I'd never seen it before. So
Well, much like
that's
my
what I
wife,
meant.
much like my wife, you did not
Don't beat
communicate.
me, please.
Much like my wife, you did not communicate yourself clearly. But I want to say, my love, that when you walk through the garden, you gotta watch your back.
Yes, indeed.
I beg your pardon,
Mhm.
and walk that straight and narrow track.
That's right. That's right.
If you, Jesse, walk with Jesus, did you know that he was going to save your soul,
I had no idea.
and that you got to keep the devil
Brad.
way down in the hole?
Oh yeah, baby.
He's got the
yeah.
fire and the fury at his. I'm doing the whole fucking song. At his command. Well, you don't have to worry if you hold on to Jesus' hand.
That's right.
We'll all be safe from Satan when the thunder rolls. We just gotta help me keep the devil way down in the hole. Jesse Starcher of the Screaming Boy.
That is
Podcast.
right. No, that's not me. So, okay. Blind Boys of Alabama season 1.
Yep.
Tom Waits season 2. Neville
Yep.
Brothers season 3. Domager, I'm going to go with that. Season
Yep.
4. And then Steve Earle. Is that Copperhead Road, Steve Earle?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The
Season
very
5. And then
same.
Mark Radulich, The Wire podcast. Not the one that is done by Method Man, but yeah,
No,
this
not
one tonight.
not
no.
20 years on.
No.
Because all the angels sing about Jesus' mighty sword, and they'll shield you with their wings and keep you close to the Lord.
That's right.
Don't pay heed to temptation, for his hands are so cold. You gotta help me keep the devil way down in the hole.
And at about this point, if I had special effects that I could do, I would crack the screen after I looked like I threw a rock at it.
Right. We are here. We are continuing our journey from the corner to the deuce, the great works of David Simon. And as I tell all the pretty ladies that I see on a daily basis, this is his magnum opus, The Wire. And we are concluding our look at The Wire tonight. The Wire season 5, baby dolls, is the fifth and final season of The Wire, commenced airing in the United States on January 6, 2008, and concluded on March 9, 2008. It was the show's shortest season with 10 episodes. The series introduced a fictional version of the Baltimore Sun newsroom, while continuing to follow the Baltimore Police Department in City Hall and the Stanfield crime syndicate. Yes, Jesse Starcher. The arc that began with season 4, where Marlowe's crew had pretty much taken over the drug trade in West Baltimore, but they seemingly did it without dropping a body. Turns out they were dropping many bodies.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were just hiding them
Yep.
in row houses. And at the end of season 4, cool Lester Freeman of the homicide unit figured out, hey, some of these nails ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of these nails look like they came from a nail gun.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so
right.
he started pulling all of Chris and Snoop's good work out of them there row houses to the tune of 22 dead bodies.
But you know what? That doesn't stack up to a thieving politician.
As we're going to find out. Good to know. And so we concluded season 4 with the investigation into who put all the bodies in the row houses. In season 5, the other thing that happened is, while promises were made, Jesse Starcher, don't you understand? It was a new day. Wake up and smell the coffee is what Cedric Daniels was told, and what he then repeated to everyone else. And then they found out that the school's accounting may be a little off, a little Jewish math, if you were. What was it? Something like $40 million school fucking
It was a
deficit?
lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of money. They were like, all these promises that they had made
Mm-hmm.
to the police force. Hey, we got your back.
Yep.
Look me in the eye. You know, I'm telling you the truth. You are going to be funded. You can turn this city around.
Everything,
No.
everything you need to solve this mass murder. 22 bodies thrown into houses like trash. Everything you need, Jesse, to solve this crime, the mayor's office is going to give you. Oh, but wait, the schools are running a $1 zillion budget deficit.
Got a problem.
And so the mayor went on bended knee to the governor, and the governor unzipped his pants, unfurled his agenda.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And Tommy Carcetti, deciding that he too would one day like to be a governor and unfurl his agenda to begging mayors, said, keep your money, we'll figure this out. And so they robbed from Peter to pay Paul, which left no money for the police. And this picks up a year later. Their labs are backed up. They have no trace analysis. They can't figure out.
Bad.
They can't figure out who did all. Even though they have DNA on Chris Partlow and Snoop, they can't trace any of the bodies back to them. So they're still out. And because Marlowe knows they've been the reconstituted major case squad under Lester has been rejoined by McNulty, has been on them for the past year. They ain't talking on no phones, Jesse.
Mm-mm.
They do all their
No, they are
business
not.
outside in the park with the pigeons.
That's right.
And so they can't get a decent wire up on them. They can't get a pattern. It's a year later, and they're no closer to solving the row house murders than they were when they first started. And no one's getting no OT, and morale is low, and everything's the pits.
Man, the one thing that sets this whole season off is McNulty going to get a car from the garage.
Yep.
And he gets about 10 feet and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with this car?
Oh,
And
well,
he
hang
gets
on.
out.
Hang on. You were a cart before the horse, my love. Because
Okay.
because what really happens was they need more money to throw at the schools.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out where else they can cut from. And Rawls, that bastard Rawls, says,
Rawls.
well, there is a high-end department, a high-end unit doing long-term casework. They're the ones looking into the row house murders, and they have I believe it's also Burrell that says, yeah, they're running a wire for the past year that cost them thousands of dollars a day. And there's a discussion that takes place in the mayor's office about, are we just supposed to come down off a murder of 22 fucking people that got left in like abandoned houses? We got national news. We got national
Right.
news coverage on that, Jesse. And they're
Right,
like,
dude.
no one's saying we're not going to investigate it. We're just saying we probably don't need to dedicate an entire unit to this.
Mhm.
Let the labs do their thing, and we'll come back on it when we've actually got something to go on. And so the major case squad, short of Lester and Sindor, who are assigned to the state, they're assigned to, I can't remember the term for it, but they're assigned to the, I think it's the state attorney's office to prosecute Clay Davis.
Oh, yeah.
But the rest of the unit is disbanded, and poor old McNulty, the protocol son, him and Kima are shipped back to homicide.
Right.
Did you know that you're sitting in my desk, Jesse? It's my desk. McNulty, what a bully. And so, yes, then McNulty catches a case, and he goes to get a car because the whole police force is just tatters with the budget cuts. The one car has a flat.
Yeah.
And eventually go ahead.
This is your one bad day. This is your one bad day. McNulty's one bad day that turns him into some bad stuff.
Yeah.
Indeed it was, Winfrey. Indeed it was.
Yes, it was. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Robert Winfrey of the Screaming Boy podcast.
Oh, we're all Screaming Boy podcast people around here.
That's good. All goddamn screaming people. Anyway, so the point being, it is a year later. Promises were not kept. There is no money to be had. They're not any closer to catching Marlowe, and then they're told abandon the case for the time being and go back to business as usual. These many years later, after McNulty sauntered into Judge Phelan's office, he's back where he started. And so him and Bunk go out on a case, and he learns prior to this that if you mess with a dead body, in case you're into this sort of thing, and I'm not here to kink shame, but in case you're into,
we might on that one. I might shed a little shame on that.
Like, I'm not here to pass judgment. What you do privately is utterly up to you. However, he learns from the coroner's office that you can juke a body after it's died and make it look like a strangle job when it isn't. That's the whole point of that coroner's office scene. And so McNulty, having gone back to the bottle and utterly fed up with his lot in life.
Yeah, man, he had it so good. What was that, season 3 or season 4? You're just like, season 4. He looks great. He's got beady. He's not drinking. He's keeping things straight.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Winfrey.
Time is a flat circle. McNulty, probably. Episode 11, season 5.
But yeah, I mean, he's now in a shambles, and what is about to happen is, I think, was it Freeman, Lester, that looked at him and says, "I can't believe this shit goes through your head." And so, what goes through his head, Mark Radulich?
So he decides that he believes he has come to the conclusion that the way to get the mayor's office to turn the faucet back on and get the money flowing so that they can get Marlowe is to fake a serial killing.
So, okay.
Can we just talk about that scene for a second? Because first season, fuck.
Yeah.
McNulty and Bunk, partners in crime. And then here they are again, partnered up, and and McNulty takes a swig, and he starts making the body look like a strangle job.
Right.
And
doesn't tell Bunk a word.
No.
He just starts in on it.
No, and then he just looks at him like the cat who caught the canary.
What do you think, man? Bunk's like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
I wanted to draw attention to it because Bunk's reaction is fucking classic. He was like, these two guys have whored around and got into all kinds of chicanery, and suddenly McNulty found the line that Bunk won't cross. And Bunk, who has watched McNulty like season 2 with the prostitutes,
right?
Has burned every bridge, and he's seen McNulty do some shit, and he was right there with him the whole way. And then he's like, I don't want no part of what you do no more.
No,
Like
no.
Bunk was fucking done with McNulty.
That was his line. That was the line that was crossed, and he didn't, again, it wasn't like immediately he was like, oh, okay, I've got to tell somebody about this. He obviously was keeping his mouth shut because of his respect for McNulty and the fact that they're partners, and you don't go rat on fellow police. But man, yeah, Bunk was not, thrilled at all. We'll just put it that way. He was not thrilled.
He looked like he saw a ghost, He was absolutely fucking horrified by what McNulty did. And he wasn't having it, And
Bunk being the first one, of course, obviously watched this happen, and McNulty entrusts him with the plan, even though he's not a part of it. And he makes sure that McNulty understands, I am not a part of this.
That is the brilliant part of McNulty's psychosis, is that he is the blood that pumps through his vein is filled with righteous indignation.
Oh, yeah.
And he thinks everybody around him is with him. He is totally the guy charging forward while the army stays behind and goes, I don't know what he's doing. But he's like, come on, let's fight. And he runs ahead, and then takes a spear to the face. Well, meanwhile, the army is just like, we're not following you, sir.
You're either very brilliant or very stupid. And that's what McNulty looks like here. You're like, okay, is he going to actually get away with this? And that's the big crux of this whole season is how in the world is he going to pull this off? And you're just waiting for everything to fall apart. And you're wondering if McNulty is going to actually be successful.
Let's stay with the serial killer thing. We'll talk in a few minutes about the journal. The major theme of this season was the media. As was schools was the fourth, the third was reform, the second was the ports and the loss of the middle class, and then the first one was the introduction to all of this.
Right.
So thematically, we're dealing with the media here and the introduction of the fictionalized Baltimore Sun and all of that, and it ties into the whole serial killer story. But I want to talk about that in a little while. I want to stay with the serial killer thing because I know Robert and I who's watching tonight, and we thank Robert for hanging out with us. He has discussed that he doesn't really like this season because this goes a bit over the top.
I'll agree.
And I'm going to quickly summarize what happens here so that we can talk about it. But essentially, over the course of 10 episodes, McNulty is joined by Lester and then eventually by Sindor in creating the illusion that there's a guy out there molesting and killing homeless men.
He's biting them.
Arr. And again,
free Lester pulls up with the dentures, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on now?
Right.
Oh man.
Lester has a great line about it. He was like, I considered the decision to come off of Marlowe. What was the word he used? Illegitimate. I considered the decision illegitimate, and they have put me in a position of defying their authority because their authority is undeserving of being followed, essentially. And so Lester, who is generally in opposition to McNulty in terms of the way they handled things, like they almost came to blows in season 3.
Yeah, they did.
And here he's like, nope, I've come to your side, sir. After everything that's happened, after the New Day promised and all of that, I'm with you. Let's
Bunk brings Lester in to talk sense into him. And then Lester is the one that's like
this seems like a great idea. Let's do it.
If you want to do it right, we need to do it this way. And you're like, oh man. All right.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Fucking Bunk just like, listen, Lester, you talk sense to the man. Like, no, I think he's really onto something.
His papers, bangs his head up against the door.
Just throws his pants at Jay. He's fucking done, man. Bunk went to go smoke a cigar and think about the decisions he's made.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so what happens is Lester and McNulty juke a bunch of bodies, create a series of perceived to be molested and murdered homeless men, and then they call the media, and the media reports on it. This becomes a big issue. Tommy, who is the Carcetti, who is the mayor, is having such grave difficulties between the school and some other issues. He starts to get traction with the homeless thing, and it becomes like what his whole office is about. And then so he starts. So now they're throwing money at this thing, and McNulty, the plan is working, takes the money and diverts it to an illegal wiretap on Marlo Stanfield, and getting surveillance on their crews again, which then eventually leads to them finding out that the way the Greeks and Marlo came together and created a system was pictures of clocks. And one clock tells them where to meet in Baltimore, and that's how they set up the meets. And they just, they're within, I think they said like they're within 15 minutes of any place. So whenever you get a picture, know that you need to be on your way to wherever the clock says you have to go. And that's what they use the illegal wiretap for. Once they figure that out, they catch them getting a shipment off the boat from the Greeks, and Monk and Marlo and Chris and Snoop and Cheese all go to jail, and it all comes crumbling down. But here's the fly.
I don't know if Snoop does go to jail in that one. I don't think she was around.
There's a warrant out for her arrest, but they never catch her.
Yeah, right.
And she ends up getting shot in the head by Michael. Spoilers. But but to sum up,
what we're here for,
so we can talk about it, is that they end up telling Kima because Kima is wasting her time on some menial task tangentially related to the homeless killings.
She's pulling all this shit that has nothing to do, while McNulty sits there and watches her. And he finally starts to feel guilty enough. He's like, okay, I got to tell her.
Right. Well, the thing of it is everyone they've told up to this point's gone on with it. Like when Lester told Sindor was like, please don't send me to jail for listening to what Marlo ordered for lunch. That's a great line. But like Sindor's in on it. And everyone's in on the gag, and everyone's buying into it more or less to the degree that they know what's happening, except for Kima. Kima's like, no, this is immoral. And much like Bunk, but Bunk didn't do anything about it. Bunk just tried to get McNulty to come off the ledge. Kima was like, and she talks to Carver, who earlier in the season had to put Officer Frankenstein on punishment.
Does look like Frankenstein.
Yeah. Officer Lurch, he had, because when Officer Lurch attacked, what was it, a school teacher or some shit?
Yeah,
he was so frustrated. He was like, guy leans on his horn, he should go to fucking jail or some shit. And it's like, no, Colicchio, no. And so Ellis had to write him up, and Kima goes to Ellis and was like, Carver rather, and was like, what do I do? And he was like, what you have to do. And so she goes to Daniels, and Daniels and Perlman figure out that the wiretap phone that's supposed to be for the homeless guys, a homeless murder, is actually Marlowe's. And the whole thing comes falling down. The way it gets resolved is essentially they find out that Levy is illegally buying court documents from one of the officers of the court. And so Perlman and Levy basically agree that everyone gets prosecuted except for Marlo. Marlo goes free. And they're able to link Chris Partlow to one murder, and through that one murder, he has to take them all the row house murders.
Now, it's important to note that it's not like they sent Lester and all of them to jail. No, the mayor was wrapped up in this. Okay, all right, go for it.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that. Like he's like fully committed to this now, and that they come out and say like, "Hey, the cops lied to get extra money to go prosecute this guy." Like that's it. That's the end of his career. He's done. He's never going to be governor. He may not even be mayor anymore. So he's like, basically, everyone's got to keep quiet about this, and we got to like resolve it quietly and make it look like it was wrapped up neatly in a bow, which it is, because there's another homeless killing, but this one's for real. And McNulty solves it in like seconds. Yeah. And they basically ascribe all the murders to that one guy, and they got Chris on the row house murders. So it's like, we saved Baltimore. Yay, roll credits, But to conclude, Lester retires. McNulty is drummed out of the police, just quits. And we never know what happens to McNulty afterwards. I've read some stuff that, like fan fiction or whatever, that like he became a teacher and a drunk and Beatty left him and all of that. But
oh well, that's fucking makes a lot of sense, I guess.
Yep.
The teacher part, I don't know, but
that all
the
tracks.
the drunk and Beatty leaving him, I could see that for sure.
For sure. Anyway, so I want to talk about, like, as I said when I started this recitation of what happened, Robert kind of hates this season because he thinks the serial killer stuff is like way over the top and stupid and almost like jumps the shark. What do you think of the serial killer stuff?
Yeah, I can agree to a certain extent. It was entertaining, but I definitely found myself thinking, okay, number one, McNulty's an idiot if he thinks something this big would not get out and that he would not suffer for it. And I really think they did a disservice to Lester Freeman with him like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I want to get this guy just as bad. I understand.
Like,
Obviously,
you believe that character might say something like, I believe the decision to come down off of Marlowe is illegitimate. It's hard to believe he would full on commit felonies.
Right. I'm just like, I don't know if you're that hard up to get this guy off the streets and think you're pulling. There's a lot of talk throughout this whole series about being good police.
Right.
And that seems to fly in the face of being good police, in my opinion.
Okay. Robert has a really good summary of, I think, both of our opinions on this to one degree or another. For a show this based in reality, season 5 requires way too many contrivances to play out the way that it does. Yeah, that's kind of, I'm going to let you say your piece, but I just want to chime in with that.
Yeah, I like
my
that.
biggest problem with, I don't hate season 5. I don't hate any season of The Wire. And I like this better than season 4. But as I said last month, but my biggest problem with season 5 is for a show that was mired in gritty reality, this one is the most dramatic in the sense of it's like the most unrealistic. It is the most like
it's a little bit detached.
Yeah, it's like I feel like we stopped dealing in what would actually happen in these circumstances with these people and created a large enough fiction so they felt like they would have an entertaining story to talk about the media and all the other themes that they get to in season 5. And it's like, there's so much of that already. And what made The Wire stand apart from so many other television shows was they didn't depend on high drama. They didn't depend on unrealistic, over-the-top situations in order to get their point across. And then it was almost like, we got to go big. It's the last season. And like they plumb ran out of ideas or something. They didn't quite know how to get to the media stuff, the journalism stuff, without creating this asinine fiction. There's no way any of this fucking shit happens. None of it.
How did they not understand that telling more than 2 people,
right,
this is going to be found out pretty quickly? You're in the position of law enforcement. Go ahead. That's
the thing. Like, you as an audience member have to believe that McNulty loves Kima so much he would not let her. He would either sacrifice himself to save her from wasting her time, or he's so delusional and he knows so little about this woman that he spent the last 5 to 6 years with that he doesn't know she would draw a hard moral line in the sand.
Yeah, you would think he would know better. You would think he would know her a little bit better.
And it's like you're being asked to believe a lot.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I found it entertaining, but I definitely realized the difference of this season to previous ones. It's really evident.
I mean, as a dramatic idea, as a narrative hook, it's fun.
Sure.
We haven't seen McNulty act like a complete bag of shit in a while.
Watching him try to go through all these hoops in order to make this wire happen.
Oh my God. My favorite moment in Justin dealing with that plot was when the one detective runs over to him and he was like, hey, if you give me a car in 2 nights and go to North Carolina, I can put this case down.
Yes.
And McNulty's like, I don't believe you. And he was like, You're just gonna make me come out and say it, aren't you? I want to go play golf.
Yeah, McNulty put in this big position of, and everybody's
Mhm.
coming to him. You know, it starts off
Mhm.
just as a trickle, and then everybody starts coming to him so they can get all this stuff authorized, so they can
Mhm.
use as much OT how they want.
And that's the thing. You have most of them are. What I like about The Wire is that they will always show you the good and the bad in the same situation. And so you have the one guy who's like, I want to go to Hilton Head and play golf. He's a bag of shit. But the other guy is like, if you give me what I need, I can actually put this murder down. And he does.
Yeah.
You know, so there are like what McNulty did is immoral. What McNulty did is criminal. But also, you got to give credit where credit's due. Giving the people the tools they need to do their jobs got their jobs done in many cases.
Right. It was just a matter of trying. I mean, when it first starts out, the mayor's like, oh, you got as much resources as you need for those two detectives.
Right.
And then they've got to figure out how are we going to get this faucet turned on for the whole force, because we need to get those resources used to put these other red balls down. But
it's just, and that was, they were piecing together, like when they figured out that the way they were communicating meetups to get the drugs was with the clocks. Oh, pictures of the clocks. They were like, oh, now we have to have the serial killer send a picture.
Right.
We have to have the serial killer call a reporter. You know, it was like one of my favorite lines of this season is McNulty in a complete 180 from season 3, utterly exasperated with Lester. He was like, no wonder Daniel cringed every time you opened your mouth. You're a supervisor's nightmare. That came from the guy who fucked 2 prostitutes.
Right.
You know, in the middle of a sting operation. Wow. That is great. We can move on from this, but it definitely we needed some time to kind of sort through it. It's ridiculous, but it's fun, and depending on, but it's utterly misplaced in this show. This is a great idea for another show. It's a poor idea for The Wire.
Yeah, I'll agree 100%.
All right, let's talk about the media. So we meet Gus. He is a editor at the Baltimore Sun. We meet Amma, who's the good reporter, and then we meet Templeton, who's a lion sack of shit.
Templeton.
Who is the actual New York Times, the Black New York Times reporter who got in trouble for lying about his stories and then wrote a book called Burning Down the Master's House?
I am shaking my head because I've heard of it, but I do not know that.
That is a real fucking story, by the way. The guy that got fired for lying in the New York Times wrote a book called Burning Down the Master's House. Thanks for being ungracious, and for the New York Times giving you a job, you asshole.
Oh man, I'm checking out Google right now just to see if we could get an answer on that. But go ahead and continue.
And so basically, much like with season 4 in the schools and season 2 with the docs, there's a lot of time spent on world building. What is it like to work in an actual newsroom? And much like season 2, where it's like this is the death of an industry that we're watching happen in real time, what the paper, and you and I have talked about this, the guys in the group chat have talked about this, we talk about this with podcasting, we talk about this with media. There's always that duality of wanting to produce the best product you can produce, but also knowing that this is a sales job. You have to make a product people are willing to buy.
Right.
And having to reconcile the two sometimes creates dirtier hands than maybe people would feel comfortable with. And so that's kind of a flowery way of saying you have the people who run the paper who know that the print media, your medium is dying. The print media is quickly going down.
Simpsons thing. Is that what you're doing? Okay, all right.
It was literally talking about print media when he said that. So Robin and I'd like to do that bit all the time. Anyway, so they know that the print media is dying. They know that papers are folding up every day. And so they have to write about entertaining things to get people to continue to buy the paper.
Sensationalize things.
And then you have the sort of idealized way of looking at things as represented by Gus, who's like, we should just write the news and do the best job of writing it possible. Oh, and make sure that we're moral and honest about it, not fabricate shit. And so that puts him at odds with Templeton, who invents stories out of whole cloth.
Yeah. Fakes phone calls to himself.
Yep.
This guy is the absolute worst
Yep.
person that they need in that media room.
Because he's willing to play ball. He's willing to play ball with the bosses who are concerned about writing papers. He is protected up on high. Meanwhile, you have Alma, who's like, there's nothing in his notes. He was shaking a pad, yelling, "It's all in my notes." There are no notes.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, and they send her off to fucking Siberia or some shit.
Yeah.
Gulag with you.
You're probably going to ask me this question, but I'm going to go ahead and hit you with it first. What was the point of this whole plot was just to kind of show you like how print media is on the brink of going under. So we've got to make stories that grab everybody's attention and make sales. Was there a subplot here of like, should we not trust the media? I know that really wasn't on the forefront of things, but that's kind of the things that I was pulling from this. Like, now I don't believe I've got people making shit up. And you can see that that's happening. There's people that are Scott Templeton gets called out by many of people who he's talked to throughout this thing. But I noticed that was kind of a thing they were leaning towards too. But would you say that you yourself what's the main point of this subplot here for the Sun?
Okay, well, real quick to address the reporter I was referring to, it's Jason Blair.
Yeah.
And his book is called "Burning Down My Master's House: My Life at the New York Times." You ungrateful piece of shit. And the description in Google Book says, the journalist who was at the center of the journalism scandal involving fabrication and plagiarism of the New York, he's the one doing it. That's he was involved. No, he's the guy. He's the guy that lied. At the New York Times offers his own take, his own truth, Jesse Starcher. He was offering his own truth.
Yeah. How much? Yeah. Like, who's going to believe what is written in this book?
Okay. Offering a critical look at the failures of modern news media. Oh, the guy who lies. The guy that's ass fired from the New York Times is going to tell us what's wrong with
it's a one-page book of a picture of himself.
Yeah, him like holding a mirror, looking sad. to answer your question, the point of I think David Simon knew they were coming to the end of the wire, and he was kind of out of ideas at this point. And I think you got to remember, like there was either him or Ed Burns, one of the two, worked at the paper, and I think he just wanted to talk about that experience. But I think they also want, just like season 2, though, they wanted to address that the newspaper industry is dying and what that looks like and how that affects people, how that affects the way that, one of my problems that I've had over the years in podcasting with some of my contemporaries was some of our contemporaries continue to work in the industry as paid writers. So you have people who are sent to UFC fights, for example, to cover it as media. And I would get aggravated because I would feel like some of those people were saying things that were not true, but they thought in order to keep their access that they would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've always had a problem with that. And while I understand it, a lie is a lie is a lie. And I think what David Simon with the media stuff in season 5 is, at what point is the media betraying itself in the people when they're not giving accurate portrayals of the news, when there's so much agenda driving what's being reported? I remember like a study of the media and like the way things are reported being so completely skewed. An example of that being, depending on who's committing the crime, they may or may not report the race of the offender. So like if it's like a black person, it's black guy commits robbery. If it's a white person, it's guy in red sweatshirt, or vice versa, commits robbery. It's like, you're reporting on the news differently based on the outcomes you want to see.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point he was trying to get across.
When you take a step back and you look at you use the word agenda, which is a great word, because
the message,
the agenda here for the news, each of these institutions that we're looking at in this season have agendas. We've always stuck with the police, homicide unit, whatever.
Yeah.
They've had an agenda. The mayor's office has an agenda, and so does the Sun. It has an agenda as well. And you can see sometimes how they actually parallel each other.
By the way,
there's
you talk about agendas, and everyone has their own agendas. Nerys might be my new favorite character of season 5.
Okay. All right.
He's the city council president. Oh my God, she has so many great lines in this season. Like when Burrell is finally going out on his ass, like for bringing in fake stats, and she tells him, she just flat out tells him, like, if you comply, you will be taken care of. You go out kicking and screaming,
right?
Like, dude, Nerys, like Margot Robbie in Babylon, is more man than anyone in season 5. Nerys kicks fucking ass, man.
Yeah.
There was that. There was something. There's another line about, like, I know because he gave away the fucking store just to get rid of you.
Right at the end, when Daniels, where she's upset with Daniels, it's like, well, I know how to play this game. He's either going to do what I say, or he'll be resigning soon.
Right.
She knows where she's at, and she knows how to play.
She don't take no mess, man.
No, she does not.
Madam President don't take no mess.
But yeah, man.
What do you think of the Scott Templeton media Gus story?
Well, I mean, I love seeing Michael Clark, right? That's it. Clark Johnson. Sorry, not Michael Clark. Clark Johnson. Coming back, being kind of like I say coming back. He was never in a previous season of The Wire, but we know he was from Homicide. Right. So seeing him show up in a David Simon joint is great. And he did a great job as Gus. I mean, I was entertained by the plot. I had a good time watching it, but as to what I took from it, clearly it was just there so it could tie in with McNulty.
I think my problem with the writing of this season was throughout it. We talked about the serial killer thing being not particularly believable and a little sensationalist for a show that's so realistic. Excuse me. I have the same problem with Gus.
Okay.
Where I think Gus is supposed to be a symbol of a type of character. I'm not entirely sure a human would act that way. Like him yelling. Like him yelling at one of the editors, "We can't print this shit." Like at some point, self-preservation for most of us kicks in. He's not some drug dealer on a corner. He is a professional journalist with a high degree of power. At some point, he has to know if they're acting the way that they are, and okay with creating fictions and more concerned about winning a Pulitzer. He has to know, yelling in the editor's face, "We can't print this shit's going to get him nowhere." But they have him doing that because he's supposed to represent that frustration. He's supposed to represent that righteous indignation. And it's like, I don't buy that a human being would act that way.
Frustration is a great term for how I felt watching the Sun angle too. Because watching Scott Templeton, he doesn't really suffer too many consequences.
He suffers none. He gets a Pulitzer.
He's shaking hands getting a Pulitzer at the end credits. Before
remember how I said nothing stops bitches and whores? Also, the bad guys always win.
Right. That was probably the one thing I took out of that part of it was just how frustrated I was, because I wanted Gus to be able to put this guy in his place. And there's so many times where Gus is going out, he's investigating if Scott Templeton is actually putting out legitimate stuff, and he finds holes in everything. But nope, Scott Templeton, here you go. Here's a golden key.
Because every time he went to say something, he got shot down by his bosses.
Right.
Because they liked Scott, and Scott was going to get him a Pulitzer.
I can identify. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that I can identify with Gus. So I don't know. I mean, I like Gus as a character. Clark Johnson, one of my favorite actors. So there you go. By the way, I 5 seasons. We've done this show for 5 seasons. Waylon is played by Steve Earle.
Yep. Yes, he is.
Unbelievable.
Bubs.
Bubs
Bubs
the
got
only one happy story out of
yes.
this whole thing.
That's okay. They'll get offset by Dookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to address the Bubs story because Bubs got Sherrod killed in the 4th season, and they tried to hang himself, and then he went into rehab, and his whole arc this season is in the dealing of grief, and he has a great line in the meeting room about it's okay to hold on to grief as long as you make room for other things, and I think that's very true. I think we all process and mourn differently and over different amounts of time. And I don't think anyone can tell you when you're done. But laying down and dying because of it is also not good.
Right.
And, I liked Bubs this season probably because he wasn't a heroin user.
Yeah.
Like, I think his stuff in previous seasons gets a bit redundant. This season, he's got a lot of introspection going on. You truly see Bubs's self-loathing this season.
Oh yeah.
He does not believe he is worthy of love. He is worthy of life. He feels that he should have been dead a long time ago, and he is struggling with that. He is trying to reconcile, why did he live and Johnny die? Why did he live and Sherrod die? How is he still around after shooting a Olympic-sized swimming pool full of heroin?
Right.
And how didn't
even catch the bug?
I was gonna say it never even didn't get HIV. Somehow managed to not get HIV lucky.
Right.
I mean, he's like, I don't deserve any of this. How am I still alive? And it is through interacting with the other good reporter, where the guy just hangs out with him for a while and writes his story. And Bubs is like, what? And he's so ashamed of himself. He's like, what good does this story do to read about my story in the paper? I have nothing to offer anybody. I'm worthless. And then there's this reporter going, no, you're worthy. You're worthy of love. You are worthy of life. And your story resonates with people. People will identify with you. And that's the point.
Yeah. That's a great line where he says something along the lines of like, your story may change somebody.
Right.
And he's right. I mean, just even though it is a very mundane story, especially in Bub's eyes, he's just like, what is this going to matter? It would matter. It's going to matter to somebody to watch him go through the struggle and actually come out the way he is. That's just the way life is. It doesn't, but they, I think when Waylon looked over what was written, he was like, well, this is you. And he isn't, he's not making you look any better. He's not making you look any worse. It's actually you. He goes, there's that. So, a real life story about somebody who's gone through such tragedy is going to be inspirational, most likely, to somebody to see. And somebody can say, I've gone through that too. And there's people out there suffering like me. So it's a great, I love that little Bub subplot of trying to get through what he's experienced. And it's a struggle. I just even talk about that, not let alone he's a drug addict trying to stay on the right path.
Right.
He has to deal with this and talk about it in front of a lot of people.
One of the things they talk about in real life and in the show about being a drug addict is that you will hurt and burn everyone who's ever loved you.
Right.
And look at the relationship between Bubbles and his sister.
And
it's just like the last time I let you into my house, you were, you left with my TV and half the shit in my living room.
There is
she won't
deadbolt on the door to the basement.
And he can't even stay in the basement while she's there. Well, if she's not there,
right?
Like he's like, it's so funny because like he's trying to hide in her basement because the temptation to shoot up if he goes outside is too great, and he has no resolve. And she's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Go out, figure it out. You're not staying in my house while I'm not here when I can't watch you. Like the level of distrust, the lack of faith because of the years of misbehavior and addiction. But it makes it all worth it. It's that Cap and Peggy moment at the end of Endgame. He finally goes up the stairs and he eats family dinner with his sister and his niece.
Yeah, it's great.
And it made me cry happy tears when I saw it. I really liked it. Bubs finally came home. Meanwhile, let's talk about Mike and Dookie.
Oh boy.
So when we pick up, Dookie got promoted to high school midway through the year last year. Took one look at the high school and everyone around him and said, nope. And so Michael started. So in trade for Chris and Snoop killing Michael's father, or Bug's father, he in turn went to work for Marlowe. So one, he's got a drug corner, but occasionally they need him to shoot somebody. And excuse me. And so in the beginning, Dookie's running Mike's corner for him, but Spider ain't having none of it. Spider's like, I ain't fucking with him, man. He's just a bitch is all. Which I understand. I don't know about you, Jesse, but when someone acts like a bitch, you gotta fuck with them. That's just the way it is.
Sure.
Right. Spider is very eloquent. I mean, I can see why this show got nominated for the writing awards that it did. Like, I ain't fucking with him, Michael. He's just a bitch is all. That tracks, Spider. Thanks,
Spider.
You know, and then poor Mike has to then parent Dookie. He's just like, why you let him fuck with you like that? And like Dookie has his spine is made of soft feathers. It's true. And so he can't be on the corner anymore because he ain't hard like that. And I think this is the season where Mike and Dookie go into the woods to shoot guns, and Dookie can't shoot guns. And so he's like, well, right. And so he's like, well, just watch Bug, make sure he gets home from back and forth to school. And Dookie's like, what am I supposed to do? Stay home and bake cookies? And Mike's like, I don't give a fuck what you do.
Right.
Just make sure my brother's okay. And so Dookie tries to get a job and he runs into Poot. And Poot's like, you're not old enough. Get out there and bang on some corners for some more. What you want to hear?
Yeah, no kidding.
And so Dookie finds the junk man. Junk man.
He is the junk man too.
Yep. And they start shooting heroin together, and that's where Dookie's story ends.
Yeah, Dookie
unloved, abandoned, in a vein full of heroin.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's sad. It's a very sad story. I saw a meme. I called a meme. It was just a picture, you know, going on through TV Time of all the characters that basically took the place of the previous characters.
Right.
And just like you said, Dookie becomes our new Bubs.
Right. And
someone becomes our new Omar.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah.
That like you used to be Marlowe's bank, and I think that money need to be mine. You just a baby shot in the knee. That's just a knee, motherfucker. Mike is hard as hell, man. But Mike has a very sad ending. You know, when he knows that when he's the one accused of snitching on Marlowe, when he wasn't, they got him on the illegal wiretap, but they don't know that. So they assume somebody snitched. They figured it was Michael because Michael's kind of the outlier. And Chris and Snoop are sent to kill him, and Mike gets the drop on him and ends up shooting Snoop in the head, which is a great going out line. Like, Snoop is my fucking hero. Because Snoop is
How's my hair?
Yeah, like she's so fucking manly, you know? She's so tough. Like, she's almost like asexual, like androgynous.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
she has like a street like not a David Bowie androgynous about her, like a very like street androgynous. First of all, she's like this fucking big, so, you know, and she's always wearing baggy clothing, so she could totally pass for a dude.
But she is fucking hard as nails,
fucking hell, man. And so Mike gets the drop on her, and he's like, and she's like fucking bad talking him. She's putting him down. She was like, "You was never one of us. Always running your fucking mouth."
Yeah,
and Mike's like, I don't have to take this. I have a gun. And she knows it. And she's like, fair play to you.
Yeah.
And in the most girly moment, that she's had in 2.5 seasons, how my hair look, man? How my hair look? You look good, girl. Bang, 9 automatic.
Of all the characters throughout this whole series, I would say hers is the most.
If you say it's like the most surprising over Omar's, I'm going to throw something.
Well, no, I'm not talking about it death-wise because that is. I'm talking about as a character, because when you're looking at her as a character, she is not what she appears to be. She is not a small, dainty little woman. That is for damn sure. She is and it is nothing but the streets for her. And she is completely okay with getting killed. And she is completely okay with murdering other people.
Yep. My time has come.
Yeah. She is, she's just this weird outlier of other characters. You look at him like, okay, that's a drug dealer.
Right.
Okay. That guy looks like a cop. This person, you have no idea what's going on in that head of hers at all. So,
and Michael has a great line when they drop Bug off at the aunt's house, and Dookie's like, "Hey, remember when we picked up those girls? Remember?" And Michael goes, "I don't remember anything anymore." Mike is gone.
Yeah.
And even Naaman said that in the previous season. He was like, "Michael ain't Michael no more."
Yeah.
And the next thing we know, we see Michael shooting with Vince in the knee.
Yeah.
Speaking of being shot, we got to say goodbye to our good friend.
Wow.
So they kill Blah and Butchie to draw Omar out of retirement, and Omar and Marlowe's people go to war. I don't know how I feel about how how Omar went down, because the thing leading up to it was him and the one guy.
A lot of other people do.
Him and the one guy stalking Monk, but they were the ones being stalked, and the one guy gets killed, and Omar dives out a window.
Some Spider-Man shit.
Yeah, spends the next 2 episodes fucking limping around. You really get to see Omar like torn down, like his like legendary badass status is utterly shattered in this season, along with his leg. But then like the next thing you see him doing is being Omar about it, and he's running around and fucking just like stealing Marlowe's drugs and throwing them down the drain, screaming to no one in particular. Marlowe is not a man for this town. Marlowe is a punk, and if he wants to go, he should meet me in the street.
Meet me in the street.
And the best part about that is everyone knows it, and no one tells Marlowe, and Marlowe damn near loses his fucking mind.
Yeah, he does.
He may be going to prison for 50 years for criminal conspiracy and murder, but he's worried that Omar called him. He's worried that Omar called him a bitch in the street.
Right.
You call me a punk? It's like he's like Marlowe is Marty McFly. Did you call me chicken? It's about that level.
Yeah, it really is.
But by the
Omar's,
way, them in the jail holding cell as they're discussing it, and like Monk is starting to talk about it. Chris is like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Fucking say a word, man.
He's nuts. Stop talking.
Don't.
And Monk knows he fucked up. Like that guy is like not the world's greatest actor, but like in that moment, you could just see him going, I don't want to talk. I don't want to say nothing. I know I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, you done did. And Marlowe's like, you better talk, motherfucker.
Gosh, man. Yeah. Omar's death.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do you think, man? Do you think that it,
well, let's talk about.
You said you didn't know how you felt about it, so kind of explain.
Let's tell the people what happened. He's shot by fucking little itty bitty Kennard.
Yeah.
Kennard, who's like 5.
He is. Yeah.
Kennard
got a mouth of a 40-year-old.
I was gonna say Kennard might be the hardest motherfucker in 5 seasons of The Wire.
It's like, sure they not related to Snoop in any way. I don't know.
Might be Snoop's baby, and I do mean that. Like he's like a fetus. He's just that hard. Yeah, Kennard, Kennard fucking fighting with Naaman in season 4 and fucking up, getting Dookie beat up by Spider. Yeah. Kennard's a bad motherfucker. All like 2 feet of him. And he rolls up in the Korean joint and just shoots fucking Omar in the back of the head unceremoniously.
It was very surprising. We'll just put it that way. While we're sitting there watching, me and the wife she's been watching this with me. And of course we're fans of Omar. We're one of our favorite characters is Omar, this guy who's been a thorn in the side of Barksdale and now the Stanfield organizations. And he's at the Korean joint, and then just out of nowhere, he's dead.
Yeah. The first time I saw it was really jarring. Like when they killed Lem in the Shield, there was like a whole big build up to it. When when Shane took his life, in the Shield. There was a big build up to it. It was very like dramatic, but you know, maybe you didn't see it coming, maybe you did, but you absolutely were brought to that point. Omar's buying cigarettes. There's no dramatic anything. Like you had no idea that was coming. That scene could have gone in any number of directions. No one suspected the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody.
Had you read anything? Has there ever been anything like that you read as to why they did that? I'm sure that there has.
I think it speaks to the unpredictable nature of being a street urchin.
You're right. There was a lot of commentary that I was reading about, you know, the Hollywood ending that we wanted for Omar.
Right.
This ain't Hollywood, folks. This is fucking Baltimore. This is the streets.
Look what happened with McNulty and fucking Stringer. The Hollywood ending is McNulty puts the cuffs on him, the bracelets. What he really did was get shot up by Omar and Brother Mozone. And there's McNulty holding his dick going, I had it. what is life?
I do. Yeah.
What is life? What is the meaning of it all?
Yeah, so I think that if I was to put any money on it, I was just think the reason they did this is because they wanted to, number one, yeah, it's shock factor, but number two, it's very much what could be happening in the streets. You know, this is something that somebody's going to go around like calling somebody out, and somebody wants to make a name for themselves, and they're smart enough to be like, okay, I want to make a name for myself. They're going to take that person out as soon as they're not looking.
The cognitive dissonance in Marlowe still cracks me up. Marlowe, a criminal conspiracy. You're being accused of criminal conspiracy. We caught you with a metric ton of drugs. I hear what you're saying, but was I called a punk? Did somebody mention my name? That's what I want to know. Is someone talking bad about me?
I heard 20 years, 30 years in prison, right? But no, I first, we need to address this.
Priority number one, Junebug talking that shit.
He's got to get got, sir. He must get got.
He must get got. Junebug must not talk shit.
That is correct.
And what I love about the Junebug, I people listening like, what? No, you got to understand. Like episode 1 or whatever, when the cops pull off Marlowe, they resume killing people again. And like Marlowe has like a fucking list. And the first thing he says is, yo, you need to shoot that motherfucker. I'm saying a lot of motherfucker tonight. I mean a different word. Well, my girlfriend's not here to give me the okay to say it. So I'm just going with motherfucker. And it makes Jesse nervous. So he's like, you need to get that motherfucker Junebug. He was talking that shit. Literally, they're going to kill this fucking guy because he was talking shit about Marlowe. And Mike even questions it. He's like, why Junebug got to die?
Right.
He's like, because he shouldn't have been talking shit. He's like, what did he say? He said Marlowe sucks dick. Let me ask a question. I might.
Did he actually say this?
Did he suck? No, it's not even did he say it. Michael's whole thing was Junebug said, I'm going to wipe this up.
Oh, Junebug I remember this. Yeah.
You're telling me, Michael, that Junebug said of Marlowe, he sucks cock. Let me ask a pertinent question, Chris and Snoop.
But he doesn't.
Did Marlowe actually take the baloney pony down the windpipe?
Does he?
Does he blow men? Is this a point of contention of some kind?
If he
and Chris and Snoop are like, no, Marlowe does not in fact suck cock. And Mike's like, then who gives a fuck? Mike is my spirit animal. Like, why are we killing people because they talk shit? And then they're ever zealous, ever committed, ever devoted Snoop because motherfuckers need not to talk. That's why. So
you mentioned Back to the Future, Marty McFly. You know, the whole chicken thing. There you go. You know, finally at some point in part 3, Marty realizes that, you know what? He's full of hot air. There's no reason to be worried about it.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, at the very end, the last thing we see Marlowe do is literally walk on the street and pick a fight with somebody and scream, I am Marlowe.
Oh, man. Does he
I am not a bitch.
He's obviously back in the streets. So, you know, that's another thing. If there is fiction out there of McNulty surviving this, I don't think
Mhm.
that's the case, because fucking Marlowe goes back out there. That was the whole thing. Like, if he goes back out on the streets, Levy's going down, and they won't care.
Right.
They'll bring everybody ahead, once the November elections are over, and which I think at this point they are, when those credits are rolling. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the final montage, and then we have 2 games we have to play. I mean, extended.
I got a
edition
few
TV
things too.
night.
I actually brought my top moments that back for this season. So go ahead.
Okay. So the montage. Before they just get to shots of Baltimore, McNulty goes and gets the homeless guy that he disappeared in Virginia, and he gets out of the car and he looks upon his city, and we get to see where things are in the near future. Dookie shooting heroin. Michael's robbing drug dealers. Kima and Bunk are working homicide as partners. Lester is retired and living with Chardine.
Not a bad gig right there. Go ahead.
No. Herc is, still buying drinks for Carver and the boys of the precinct with his newly minted salary as a investigator for Levy, who's my bushbooker, by the way. Come.
That's right.
Yvette's
Yeah,
making
my
brisket. You're my bushbooker. That's so good. And the impression from the montage at the end is, after all of this angst and contention and antagonism, life just kept going on. One of the things they showed in the montage was Fat Face Rick, Slim Charles, and I think one other person are meeting with the Greeks.
Oh yeah.
They killed a lot of people. They killed Cheese. They killed Prop Joe.
Cheese.
Oh my God, the killing of Prop Joe is a rough scene.
Yeah, it is. Close your eyes, Joe.
Close your eyes, Joe. This won't hurt a bit.
Mm-mm-mm.
And Joe's just like, I'm just gonna leave. I will go.
I got a proposition for you. I'm
just gonna go. How about I go? What if I just leave? And Marlowe's like, you'll be right up in the mischief again, Joe. And Joe's like, fuck, he knows me really well.
Damn it, he's right.
But my favorite part about that is that they don't know where he is until Cheese gives him up. And when Prop Joe figures that out, he just calmly, resignedly, aggravatedly says, that boy always was a disappointment.
Fucking nephew.
So good. Anyway. So what are your moments here? Do your list.
You ready? Okay, here we go. Don't we open up with the lie detector of this season?
Yes.
Where they
for the copy machine. Your boy gave you up. Your boy gave you one for a Big Mac and a large order of fries, because that's how he do, right? The bigger the lie, the more they believe.
That's great. That's a great scene where they're basically telling this this suspect that this copy machine will tell them if it's a lie or not, and they have him put his hand on it, and then they just run like a piece of paper that says true or false through it, and they trick this guy into thinking that he's actually it's hilarious. I had Omar's death on here. Of course, we already talked about that. Number 3, Callie Thorne coming back just for a split second, but Callie Thorne's in the season.
She's
Mark
not
Radulich
topless
is
and
a fan.
fucking on a chair, so who cares?
Well, okay, I got you got me there. But keeping along with that theme, homicide, life on the streets, Munch is in episode 7. He's sitting at the bar and he's actually talking about how, I used to own a bar, and then they kind of draw back from that. So seeing Munch there was great. The Quantico profile of the serial killer.
Oh, that is so good. I had to show that scene to Melissa, and it's without context, it's a little hard to get how great it is.
Oh yeah.
But then basically reading McNulty's psychological profile to him, and McNulty having to have that I'm terrible. I'm just the worst.
His eyes are just like, oh geez, they've got me. Oh man. Okay, this might possibly be, it's probably top 3 moments of the series for me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows, well, I say everybody, but most of the people know what's gone on, what McNulty's done and what everyth's done. McNulty gets on an elevator with Daniels, and there's no words that are said.
To be
And
continued.
of course, you can cut the tension with a knife.
Mhm.
And he goes up like 3 floors. He gets off. Daniels gets off of the elevator, turns around, and goes, "To be continued." I'm like, oh shit! What a great moment! Fantastic. We talked about the cop. Go ahead.
Real quick, like when they get McNulty in the interrogation room, and Rawls and Daniels confront him about inventing the serial killer. As many times as I've heard their dialogue exchange, I never like the way that it plays out.
Okay.
I feel like they robbed McNulty of an opportunity to have kind of a self-righteous hero moment. They made him at that point, as self-righteous as McNulty has been over the past seasons, when they had him dead to rights, and he, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. There was nothing he could do to stop it. Why not tell Rawls exactly, like he starts to become a little too apologetic about it, and Rawls just cuts him off because that's who Rawls is. But it's like when Rawls is like, you couldn't live without the OT, and he was just like, no, I took the money and I gave it to people to do real casework. The rest I used for Marlowe. And he then there should have been a recitation of what Lester said. You made us a promise. You then promptly shut down our unit and called off the murder investigation of 22 people. If you're not going to do right, I'll make you. And that's exactly what I did. And that's what they should have had him say something to that effect. Him starting to go, I know now, and like be almost like apologetic about it, and then Rawls not giving a shit anyway. I'm like, this is so much of the same of the first season, but the first season it was still new. When Rawls is like, these are for you, McNulty, that's great. That's some great shit, When Rawls is really getting in McNulty's ass over the course of season 1 for being a insubordinate prick, that's all good stuff. It's 4 seasons later. It's McNulty's turn.
I had a little bit of a different reaction to that. I felt that it was completely justified. And I think the reason why is because when I say justified, I feel that, Rawls getting in his face and yelling at him, the moment
you're not killing him yourself, are you, McNulty? Just promise me that. That's a great line.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to start it out.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as there was a copycat killer out there that was doing what McNulty made up, that's where I think McNulty realizes
that happens after that confrontation.
That happens after? I could have swore it happened before.
Yeah. No. They're waiting for him when he comes back to the homicide unit, and Rawls' first thing is, "You're not killing him, are you?" And then and they were like, and then he says, "You couldn't live without the OT," and then he tells him like, "No," and I know now. Fuck what you know now. Okay. And the only reason why you're not in bracelets right now is because the mayor can't live with it.
Do we know that there's a copycat killer before that happens?
Well, it's after that he gets told about the copycat killer, and they're looking at McNulty like, "Did you do this?" It's like, "This isn't me," and that almost makes it worse. Okay. And then they tell him, "If you know what's good for you, if you're really trying to stay out of prison, you will solve this as soon as possible."
That's
and like
right.
seconds later, he does.
Okay, all right. So, the way I thought that they had. Man, I thought he went out there and anyway, it's been like an hour. Trust me, my memory is still not as I just finished it, but my memory is completely crap. So, but anyway, we as a watcher though know that there's a copycat killer before he goes in there, right? So maybe that's why I felt like, okay, well, there is he should be taking it on the chin because of what's happening right now. He is going to be the result. He is the reason that somebody else has died. And that's what Bunk has been telling him this whole time. Look what your shit is doing. Look at what this bullshit story is doing to everybody. And now somebody is dead because of it. So I felt, me looking at McNulty, I'm like, he's guilty of sin. And yeah, he should take it on the chin. So anyway, All right. Well, that was my, my last note was Michael becomes the new Omar, and that was, watching all these characters that we've seen go through and become
Sindor's the new McNulty.
right. It's a great way to end the season. But those are my top few notes that I took from the season. So there you go.
All right, Jesse, it's your turn now. Let's play 2 games.
Okay. All right.
Your
I like
game
it.
first.
All right. Okay. So epigraphs. I don't think I've even heard that word until tonight when I hopped on the internet. But these are the little quotes that show up after the initial segments of each show. And so what I told Mark was, I said, you pick 3 and I'll pick 3 of our favorite epigraphs from the whole series. All right. So I'll start with my number 3. Tell me if this is on your list.
Okay.
From Port in a Storm, season 2, episode 12, business. Always business.
That's not on my list, but that's a good one.
Okay. All right. So that's my number 3. What's your number 3?
Gosh. I like this one. Deserve got nothing to do with it. Snoop. Late editions. Episode 9, season 5.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's right. That's near the end.
Yep. I like what that goes back to the conversation she has about Michael and Junebug and all these people that Marlowe just indiscriminately kills or has killed. And it's like, these people don't deserve to die. And Snoop's like, deserve ain't got nothing to do with it. We are here. We are in the service of Marlowe. We are here to follow his orders.
That's all she is a soldier.
Yeah, she's a soldier, and that kind of blind devotion and loyalty, and it's trying to get Michael to understand that you're not in a position to argue. You're in a position to follow and execute.
Right.
And I like, and in that scene, Snoop is just so fed up with Michael. Like you're not getting it. We killed a guy for you. We've given you everything. Why are you not loyal?
Yeah. Stop asking questions.
Right. Why have you not fallen in line? I mean, to a degree, it's a legitimate question. We've done everything for you. We told you didn't. It's not like you didn't know what this was. You knew we were murderers. You knew we were drug dealers. You knew that if you came to us and we did for you what you would have to do for us. Loyalty first. And he can't do it. He can't bring himself to. Michael is too independent, and that's what makes him an outlier in the Stanfield organization.
Yeah, he's asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now my number 2. This is maybe from my favorite season, which is season 4. Make that season 3. There's never been a paper bag. Bunny Colvin.
That's a good one. That might have been on my list.
Okay. Pick one. Number 2.
Slim Charles, same season, mission accomplished. We fight on that lie.
Oh yeah. I remember that's when things are kind of breaking down. And again, it's another one of these loyalty things.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if it's a lie or not. We're going to fight on that lie. So,
right.
All right. Number 1.
He's trying to remind Avon, you're the leader. If you have to lie to get us to do what you need to do, then lie, and we'll fight on that lie. But
okay,
you've got to set the tone. You've got to set the pace. You must lead.
Number 1, and I wonder if this is your number 1 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1, episode 7. Lessons. Cometh the king. You best not miss.
Best not miss. All right, I got you one better.
All right. Oh, let me hear what could be better than that.
I'm gonna cheat and do a tie.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's hear it.
But they're both from season 1.
All
the pieces matter.
All the pieces matter.
Cool, Lester Smooth. Really, it's a summary. It's a thematic summary of the entire series. That this is about building something. We're not just throwing bodies, higgledy-piggledy, hither and thither. We are collecting every day evidence. We are building something that will stand up to scrutiny. Something that will be tested with fire and remain unburned. All the pieces matter. If you cut corners, if you forget shit, it all falls apart later. All the pieces matter. That's the Wire.
I saw that quote on
Mm-hmm.
a picture of every character of the Wire
Mhm.
put together, and now it makes sense.
Yep.
So good quote, very good. There it is, top 3.
Wait, I had a tie.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. That's right. Okay, let's hear it.
Bunk. A man must have a code.
Oh yeah, this is when he's talking to Omar, right?
Yep.
Is that when that's happening?
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff.
All right, Jesse.
Oh,
wanted to go-
Mark Radulich.
I want to go out big tonight. We obviously are not going to do this with every single David Simon show. We've only been doing it with The Wire, but we've had a lot of fun here. I don't quite want to say goodbye to you just yet.
Don't say goodbye to me just yet.
I can't say goodbye to you, Jesse. I can't quit you.
All right then.
So I went to RappaportDan.com. Now there's like YouTube videos of this shit, but I've actually found a list here, and we're gonna do some dramatics. You ready, Jesse?
Oh boy, Mark Radulich. I'm going to relish this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
This is drama time with Jesse Stark tonight. We're gonna read the 100 best quotes of The Wire. You ready?
Here we go.
Omar. I'll do what I can to help y'all, but the game's out there. It's play or get played. That simple.
Good stuff. All right, I'm going to do Carver here. See, that's why we can't win.
Why not?
They fuck up. They get beat. We fuck up. They give us pensions.
Good old Preston Bodie Brodus. Yo, you supposed to be the good cop, you dumb motherfucker. That's great.
Oh, man. Detective William Moreland, Bunk. You seem awfully happy today.
I got laid last night.
Oh, yeah? Your asshole still hurts?
Yeah, we did that one already. All right, Troy Wiggins. Shakima's just pissed because I had her when she was still good.
Yeah, well, you the ugly ass motherfucker that turned me around.
Prop Joe. I heard your end would be covering my fee.
Your fee?
Yeah. I'm like a marriage counselor. Tell the man he ought to bring the bitch some flowers every once in a while. Tell the bitch she got to suck some cock every once in a while. That sort of shit. Speaking of cocksuckers.
Omar arrives. To Omar. What's Prop say?
I'm Proposition Joe. You fuck with me, I'll kill your whole family. and then Marlo shoots him in the head.
Ain't none of this Detective Freeman, Lester. Ain't none of you ever been in the military? Don't you know how you learn a 30-inch quick time? Draft dodging peace freaks, huh?
All right, back to Bunk again. I'm just a humble motherfucker with a big ass dick.
You give yourself too much credit.
Okay, then. I ain't that humble.
Oh, man. All right, I'll be D.A. Perlman here. What's the worst thing on a woman? A drunken Irishman.
All right, Cuddy from the cut.
Cuddy from the cut.
The game done changed.
Game's the same, just got more fierce.
You do a nice Slim Charles.
Well, thank you.
Oh, Avon pleading with Stringer to listen to reason. I ain't no suit wearing businessman like you, you know. I'm just a gangster, I suppose.
That's about a point where you start to realize that friendship's going to fracture. Bunk. Them Greeks sure have some weird ass names.
Hey, don't go knocking the Greeks. They invented civilization.
Yeah, and ass fucking too.
Brother Mozone.
Oh, Brother Mozone.
I see you favor a 45.
At night I do. And I keeps one in the chamber in case you pondering. Omar.
It's all in the game, yo. On the game.
No, classic Omar quote.
Here's another one.
Hey, yo, listen here, Bay. You come with the king. You best not miss. I could have delivered that so much better.
You really could have. That's okay. We did this one last time too, and it's still not aged well. McNulty, all those mopes and bracelets, and not one of them named Osama.
Oh boy. Oh boy. McNulty again. I got to ask you, if every time Snot Boogie would grab the money and run away, why'd you even let him win in the game?
What?
If Snot Boogie always stole the money, why'd you let him play?
Got to. This America, man.
Is that the end of episode 1? It's the end of episode 1.
That's the beginning of episode 1.
Oh, beginning.
Yeah,
You're
that's how
right.
the whole
Yeah,
thing starts.
yeah. There you go. Here you go. All right, Bubs. Thin line between heaven and here.
Sergeant J. Landsman.
Oh,
For you, I would suggest some pantsuits, perhaps muted in color, something to offset Detective Moreland's pinstripe laurely affectations, and the brash, tweedy impertinence of Detective Freeman. Rawls is watching on this one. Let's at least pretend like we got a fucking clue.
Tweedy impertinence. I like that, Lester Freeman.
Avon.
Man.
Fucked up, man. Y'all ask me, y'all ugly ass niggas shouldn't be in here fucking around with all these guns and shit. Once again, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Brother Muzone, you're the perfect bait. They will view you as conflicted. Your homophobia is so visceral.
See that? I ain't even walked into the place yet, and you're already calling me a cocksucker.
Lamar was such an idiot. Oh.
Good old DeAndre.
Deputy Commissioner, what's this Sabatka to you?
He's an asshole.
Valchek. We didn't even talk about Valchek. Didn't he become commissioner at the end of this?
After 87 people lost their fucking job, he finally is the last man standing.
Gosh.
It's fucking brilliant.
Lester Freeman. A life. Jimmy, you know what that is? It's the shit that happens while you're waiting for moments that never come.
That is a brilliant line, by the way.
It is.
All right. We'll call you Boris.
Boris. Always Boris.
Bunk. Happy now, bitch.
There it is.
All right, we're doing this one together. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Shit.
Senator Clay Davis. Yeah, and he gets away. Man, he was a smooth motherfucker on the stand, wasn't he?
God. Your state's attorney turned him into Martin Luther King. Go fuck yourself. Oh, that's great. The look on Lester's face. Oh, it's so good.
All right. Let's see. Detective Jimmy McNulty. What the fuck did I do?
Jesse, don't get captured.
Don't get captured. All right. Now, here's where I might have to disconnect for a couple seconds because I've got to try and figure out how to get to the next fucking screen. By the way, I am reading this. All the links are in Hebrew. I can read English, which is here, but everything else is in Hebrew for some reason.
All right. So here's the thing. I went to the next page, but I don't see any more quotes. So I think we're done here.
Oh, all right then. Well, that's maybe if you count all of those up, that's 100 quotes together. I doubt it, but hey, we'll just go ahead.
We're going to go ahead and do this. We've
ran it into the ground. I knew that at least 30 was going to be pushing it. 100 was going to be something else. This would have sent this podcast into the stratosphere. We've been here
for another 30 minutes, so I'm good. All right, Jesse, let's first talk your thoughts on season 5 in total, and then in the series in total, and we'll get out of here.
Okay, all right. Season 5, yeah, it takes some liberties and has a good fictional time for sure. So I didn't hate it. I was still entertained. You know, the last couple episodes, watching everything come together, McNulty's plan fall apart. This bullshit guy at the Sun actually, get called out by McNulty was great. So there's moments in this season that are really, defining for the season itself and for the series. There's plenty of deaths of people that were, used to, that we've kind of grown used to as we've watched the series. So as an end cap for the series itself, I mean, it's definitely got the moments that you're probably looking for, but as a whole, yeah, it's one of the weaker seasons compared to the rest of the gritty reality of the previous ones that came before.
Yeah.
Now, as the series as a whole, I mean, my goodness, Mark Radulich, I've heard you talk so much about this series. I've heard others talk about how great this series is.
Have I talked about it a lot?
No, not at all. It definitely lived up to the hype. I will not say that it fell short in any way, because I did enjoy what I was seeing. There was a lot of thought put into what we were getting on the screen to represent what was actually happening in the real world in most parts. And to watch this police work get done in the stories for each of these people, that everything mattered. You know, all these people had a part in this story.
One might say all the pieces matter.
That's what I was going for. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I had a good time. This is definitely up there. I'm glad we got to cover it, and I'm glad we actually I got to talk your baby with you, and I'm so happy and so glad we got to do that. So,
Jesse, there are many connections between people. Some might focus just on the sexual, but in the absence of the sexual, there are all these other connections you can focus on, and this, I feel, has strengthened our connection.
I'll agree. I'll drink to that.
Perfect. No, but seriously, I love this show. I am such a television snob. People ask me, like, do you watch this? Do you watch this? I will straight up tell people, what you watch is trash. Watch better. This is the best thing you can watch. In the history of modern television, in my opinion, having not watched The Sopranos, this is the best show you can sit down and watch. It is brilliant, resonant. It is something that I believe is relative. Sorry, not relative. It's something that I think relevant. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. It is relevant. Even though it was 20 years ago ish. These are things we're still dealing with today. From the struggles with policing, legacy policing, the militarization of the police, the lack of feeling like the police are part of the community, the collapse of the community into trauma, homelessness, drug abuse, generational trauma, generational drug abuse, and how those forces intermingle with the modern police, militarized and desensitized police force, to the feeling that you're either living in abject poverty or you're the super rich. There is no middle class anymore. And those in the middle are house poor and living check to check and one good crisis away from homelessness. To, do we really take seriously the idea of harm reduction, drug decriminalization, legalization? How do we reform? Is what we're doing effective? What is it to be a modern politician? How much of your soul do you have to sell? What about the schools? Are they just warehouses for children while while adults try to work 2 and 3 jobs to pay their rents and their mortgages? How do you parent your children if you're never there? You depend on the teachers to do it. Are the teachers equipped to parent your children? Is this the system that we want? Is this what we've designed? And then finally, but what does the media have to say about all this? Well, the media has their own agenda. I don't think there's anything that I just said that people aren't in, various quarters of modern conversation talking about or thinking about. These are all still very relevant ideas. The Wire is brilliantly acted. The minutia of what's being presented, I think, is really interesting. It might not be for some. The tragedy of the moral of this story being nothing gets any better. It just goes in the concentric circle. You know, for every bubbles that pulls himself out of the heroin-soaked muck and mire, there'll always be a Dookie behind them. For every Omar that goes out on one big score and retires, there'll always be a Michael behind him. For every McNulty who charges into Judge Phelan's office with pith and vinegar to tell him this police force is fucked and the only way to solve the murders is to do things differently, as he's drummed out of the police force, there's always be a Sindor behind him. You know, nothing stops drugs and whores. It is a tragically beautiful, beautifully tragic show. And I've really enjoyed the 5 episodes that we've done discussing it. We've got more to go. We've got Generation Kill, and then three seasons of Treme, and then Show Me a Hero and The Deuce. The Plot Against America, I think, is the last one. And and I always enjoy our hour together discussing David Simon's stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably not getting any better than it was with The Wire. This is peak David Simon. And with that, that is our show. That is our review of all 5 seasons of The Wire. And what did we talk about this week? Well, we talked about how Margot Robbie's not a draw. That's what we talked about. Robert Winfrey and I reviewed Babylon. We also re-aired our There Will Be Blood review that I did with Gavin Napier. Jesse seems to believe that it was Stan Lee's 100th birthday had he still been alive. So he did not 1 but 2 podcasts. Hey, you know what, you nerd, you dork? I'm playing Marvel Snap 2. What do you think about that?
Whoa, look out, Mark Radulich.
Yeah.
Has it consumed your every free hour like it does me sometimes? He's not a nerd.
I was playing it Christmas Day and my wife came in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, you didn't want me around." So I went in the bedroom at my in-laws and I started playing Marvel Snap and listening to Metal Hammer of Doom's Wishes You a Merry Christmas. And she was like, "Hey, turn all that shit off and talk to me and pay attention to me." And I'm like, "All right. Yeah." So
have you not played it since?
I played a little bit this morning.
Okay.
I got 2 decks now. I made 2 decks.
Ooh, nice. I'm impressed, Mark. Very impressed.
Robert Winfrey was there with me when we reviewed Babylon, and she says she's not a draw and Babylon sucked. Yes, listen to the podcast if you want to hear more about that. Anyway, so Jesse dropped 2 podcasts. One was a straight up Stan Lee tribute where they looked at Fantastic Four number 12, X-Men number 9, and Spider-Man Annual number 2. And then they did another one for his top Stan Lee cameos. Plus, they talked about Marvel Snap. And hey, we re-aired the Screaming Boy podcast, Remembering Stan Lee, on his birthday. Saturday, New Year's Eve. Back in the day, before there was an official On Trial podcast, I had Gavin Napier record his own solo podcast prosecuting Man of Steel because he believed that it was a terrible Superman movie. And then me and Robert Winfrey defended it. And so I edited those pieces together, and I'll be re-releasing it New Year's Eve as a on trial for Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. And then New Year's Day, January 1st, we're kicking off the new year of podcast in auspicious style, Jesse.
Oh.
We are releasing, Jason and I are talking about Zombie Tidal Wave.
Oh, boy.
Yes, sir. You've got an Unspoken Issues for Superman Hunter Prey.
That's right.
And then
Doomsday's back, baby.
Yes, sir. Tuesday, I'm re-airing our Kanaki versus Areola commentary that I'm sure everyone's just dying to listen to. And our first live show of the new year will be January 4th. It'll be a Wednesday. Would have been a Tuesday, but I got to do Christmas with my wife's friends. So I pushed it to Wednesday because I'm social. And Robert and I will be reviewing All Quiet on the Western Front, but nobody cares about that. What people really want to hear is the year in finance in the movie industry. Yes, our year-end review show will be our money segment after we discuss possibly this year's winner for best foreign film because it's from Germany. All Quiet on the Western Front, and then Jesse, it's that time again. You know,
is it now?
You know what time it is. Yes, sir.
I do, as a matter of fact.
Raise your glass. It's the Whiskey Rebellion, bitch. We're going to be talking the funniest local stories of 2022. We're going to talk about the rise in board games. I blame the polyamory community, quite frankly. You people with Arrested Development.
Okay.
But yes, there's an article in the Washington Post about the rise of board game culture and playing. So
All right.
entire store is dedicated to board games.
All right.
We're going to talk about that. Jeff's going to make us react to Band-Maid videos.
Oh, that's happening. Okay.
Yeah, that's the segment he picked.
Oh boy. Well, we should get about I don't know 500 million views on that.
Yeah, that's going to kick us up to a whole. We won't be live that night for that reason because God forbid. I don't want to piss off the YouTube gods, but when we upload it, yes, the Band-Maid fans will be. Look, let me just between me and you, just me and you, Jesse, just you and I talking. Don't say a fucking word about Band-Aid.
I won't say anything negative at all. Trust me.
No.
I will be their biggest fan.
Everything they do is good. They're good girls.
I know that, as I've heard that.
Just be a good dom and say Band-Maid is good girls.
You're the one that we all have to worry about when Asians are on the screen. All right.
You, mild racism.
Are the guilty one.
There, you got me. Put the cuffs on. So anyway, so yes, we'll be doing the whiskey. And then what do you got? You going to show us pictures of infected penises? What do you got going on? What's the game?
I don't know. I've still got to come up with something. I know I had an idea, but I'm still. It's got to be a surprise. It's game time, Jesse Starcher. We'll be playing a game of some sort.
I think
infected penises are not on the list. I'll tell you.
I think you should show us pictures of a penis, and we have to guess male or female.
Thanks for your input. I'll write that down and promptly.
I'm trying to help you do your segment.
Thanks. I know you are. I'll have it all ready, Mark. Don't you worry. I got your back, buddy.
All right, you got my
ready?
6.
Yep.
You got my 6. Okay,
I do.
All right. If you ever need any ideas, though, I have more ideas that involve.
Yes. Is it of those caliber?
Peni. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of my ideas involve at least penises, if not exactly transgendered penises.
How am I not surprised?
I'm obsessed. Anyway, in 2023, there was so much penis. Hey, remember when I told you I went to go see Goat Whore and Goat Whore didn't show because of vehicle?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, they're back, baby.
Oh,
they're doing a makeup show here in Tampa at the Orpheum, where I saw Deicide. So I'm going to be seeing them Friday night. But Saturday, which is all anyone here cares about, Everyone Loves a Bad Guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna re-air the rest of the shows that we didn't re-air this year, and we're starting off with Evil Corporations, Jesse.
Oh, that's interesting because I mentioned this specific podcast in a Unspoken Issues where we were talking about the Umbrella Corporation.
Evil Corporations, yeah.
Robert
Winfrey's listening right now. Let's tell Robert Winfrey we miss his Everyone Loves a Bad Guy.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yep. If he wasn't covering SmackDown and contemplating his life decisions, we might be able to convince him to bring it back. All right. Anything else? Go ahead and tell people where they can find your silly little show.
Oh, well, hey, go check out the Source Material Comics feed. Unspoken Issues is on there where we focus on 90s comics and, of course, the Source Material Comics podcast. Mark Radulich, I can't remember if you plugged Slayer or not, but me and Mark got together and talked Slayer, the heavy metal Santa Claus, and that was last week, I believe, when it aired. So you want to check that out?
Oh, no.
There was probably about, 20 minutes of comic conversation, and then we were like, let's do a list. Actually, I was the one that did that. Mark was kicking and screaming. But there is a gag reel, so you'll at least get entertained a little bit there towards the end.
If I'm not scissoring children, if I'm not scissoring children, the other thing that brings me joy in life is your gag reel. I love it when you gag reel, Jesse. I love to hear your gag reel.
The gag reel. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, that's all we got going on over there. Yeah, I don't even want to ask. I don't even want to know.
Scissor me, Jesse. Yeah, buddy.
This is a wrestling thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Acclaimed.
I'm out of. I'm so out of touch.
I watched one episode of AEW and ruined Christmas.
Something stuck with you, and then you proceeded to repeat it all over the place. Is that what happened?
Real quick. So my wife's boyfriend's kid is staying with us for this week, and he's a really sweet kid, really obedient, really well behaved. He and he's just great. But not every child in this house goes along with my gags. Speaking of which,
Oh boy!
but this one definitely does. So every time I pass him, I'm just like, eh? And he's like, yeah, buddy. And I'm like, you're my favorite.
Oh,
and
man.
Robert weighing in. Mark is why we can't have nice things. You ain't kidding, Jack.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jesse, thanks for scissoring me.
Oh yeah, anytime, Mark. I had no idea it was we're here. Oh wait,
what are you doing there?
What are you doing there?
All right, Jesse. We'll come back in a few weeks for Generation Kill. Andrew Graham may or may not be living in the woods in Canada or covered in vomit. One never knows. We don't understand these Canadians. You'll have to ask him. All right,
then.
Jesse Starcher. It's all in the game, baby. It's all in the game.
True that.
Be well, be safe, and behave.